Okay. Would you close the door? Should I go ahead and start? I don't see DOE. Well,
We're here.
Okay, good. All right. So we've got everybody virtually and in person. Welcome to Weatherization 2022, What Lies Ahead. Thank you for coming to Boston for those of you that are in the room today. And thank you to all the folks who are logged in via VFairs. I hope that we'll get some good information out today and have some lively discussion around important developments in weatherization. My name is Amy Jandusa English. When I have my own slides, I like to point at that one in the middle and say, that's just for decoration. You don't have to say the Jandusa part. You can just say Amy English. I'm the project director of the Energy Partnerships Project at National Community Action Partnership. I'm relatively new, so that's my way of warning you that there's a good chance I might say something dumb, but if I do, forgive me. I just started in the beginning of April, and I'm excited to be here. My background is in energy and energy policy. I'm based in Illinois. I was with the Citizens Utility Board of Illinois for 17 years, and my background is more in LIHEAP than in weatherization. So all things related to low income energy affordability and accessibility are of great interest to me. And I hope that I can be a resource to everyone in the network. The Energy Partnerships Project itself is a great resource for anybody at any community action agency, but especially the folks that are doing weatherization and LIHEAP. So I would encourage you to reach out to us if you ever have a question about anything under the sun. I have business cards here. I hope that everyone will take one and send me an email, ask me questions about stuff. And I'm also happy to introduce Meg Power, who's trying to sneak away right now. She is the founder of the Energy Partnerships Project, formerly known as the Weatherization Leveraged Partnerships Project. And I would like, if you have a moment, Meg, could you give us a little update on what's going on with the 3.5 million or billion that's in the pipeline for weatherization? Meg is also affiliated with the National Community Action Foundation, so she knows all about what's going on in Congress.
So we're at a big moment in weatherization because now we know that another 3.5 billion is coming because it's in that bipartisan act. Hate seeing the back of my head. And it's over a 5-year time lapse. And as you know, you've done big things before, faster than that in this network. The 3.5 billion doesn't come with any particular instructions. David Bradley will talk to you tomorrow about changes that the National Community Action Foundation is trying to get to accompany this money and about trying to get more money, but not an unreasonable amount. 3.5 billion isn't change, but typically this network does 1.1 billion of money connected to weatherization one way or another a year. And we know this because the Community Action Partnership does a joint survey, NASCAST, that surveys the states, and we survey the CAPs about your partnerships, meaning where's your money coming from that isn't federal or that isn't from weatherization. And it's been very consistent for the last 6 years. 1.1 billion is out there. Now, a lot of it is concentrated in a few states. And so for some of your states, mostly Southern, you will have a lot of growth coming in the next 3 to 5 years. And he's going to introduce to you the DOE team, the dream team that we would want to have here this time to help us get through the growth period.
Great. So without further ado, we'll turn it over to Erica Burin. She is the Weatherization Program Manager for the entire Weatherization Assistance Program nationally. And with her is Derek Schroeder. And is it Schroeder or Schrader?
It's Schrader, but Schroeder's
Schrader.
fine. I never correct anybody.
Okay. It didn't sound right. And Amy Klusmeyer. And as Meg said, they are kind of a dream team. My understanding is that this is one of the best staffing situations that the network has had in a long time. They're very in tune with all the needs of the weatherization folks on the ground. And I think all three of them have a background in weatherization implementation in specific states. And at least two of them worked at community action agencies. So these are our friends, and they have a lot of interesting information to give us today. So I will turn it over to them, and you can start sharing your slides, and you can also expand on introducing yourself if I missed anything.
Okay.
Thank you. And for the folks that are still joining us in the room, there is a sign-in sheet. We're just getting started, so you haven't missed anything yet.
Okay. Again, my name's Erica Burren, and I want to say thank you to NCAP and Amy. Those are really nice words. We are excited and feel privileged to be invited and talk with you all today. We know that NCAP puts on an incredible conference, and there are many great sessions going on right now. So we appreciate you spending some time with us, and I and my co-presenters will hopefully make it worth your while in your time. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, these are my co-presenters here. Derek Schrader, he's the lead policy advisor for technical operations. Sasha Tidwell is our ORISE fellow, and Amy Klussmeyer is one of our project officers here at DOE. And in the first session, we're going to break things up into two groups, programmatic updates and some technical updates. And then in session 2, we hope to be able to have a lively Q&A with you all. We've got some prepared slides, but if you all have questions, it's way more interesting to hear from you all so that we can try and provide some feedback and responses. So next slide. Okay, so for the program updates, these are just the topics we're gonna talk about, or that we're gonna go through. Go ahead, Amy. I'm sorry. Next slide. All right. Meg talked a little bit about the bipartisan infrastructure deal, or previously it was called the bipartisan infrastructure framework. So because we're in the federal government and we don't know how to talk to each other without using acronyms, I may refer to that as the BIF or the BID, which is outside of what our normal Formula 22 allocations would look like. So that's in addition to. And David Bradley and Meg, I'm sure tomorrow will give you all kinds of juicy updates that I am perhaps not privy to, but what we're going to talk about for 22 funding outlook is what is publicly available. So they haven't passed a budget. The thinking, at least the last time I know, and again, get your update from David Bradley tomorrow, is that we will be on a CR, or a continuing resolution, which means that Congress will likely not get all of their budget bills passed before the end of the fiscal year on September 30th. So we won't know for a little bit exactly what we're going to get for 22. But we can see from the House committee reports where the winds are blowing. And in the House version, they're recommending an additional $3 million for community scale weatherization. In 22 and 21, they asked for a $1.5 million set aside for community scale weatherization. So we are working on putting together that proposal package that would be available to grantees and subgrantees existing within the program. In the 22 administration budget, DOE put forward a request for a weatherization readiness fund. And those funds are specifically those funds that would be outside of the SIR requirement, but would allow grantees and subgrantees to address structural or roof repair items that are the consternation of everyone And so that was in the administration's budget, and the House is signaling that they support that weatherization fund. On the Senate side, they are also supporting that fund. The last number that I saw in writing was less than we had originally proposed, but it's a beginning of 15 million. We just don't know where the number will end up for the fiscal year 22. The Senate gave us a top line number, so 375 million would be for the formula funds to do weatherization work. They're continuing to set aside money for the vermiculite study, about $1 million a year. And they were recommending 8 million for training and technical assistance. And that is like headquarters training and technical assistance. At this point, we don't know if that 8 million is includes the 3 million for community scale or if it's on top of that. So all of that to be determined in the final bill language. Next slide. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about grant closeouts. We had put out a memorandum to the network indicating that we would end the current awards at the end of the 21 program year. So for some states, that's March 30th of 2022 or June 30th of 2022, just depending on, you know, if you're a 4-1 or 7-1 states. And, you know, just talking about the reporting and the ending of the awards. What happens is you do your closeout with the state, then the state closeouts all their sub-grantees. They report that back to DOE, and then along with some other deobligation of funds, so that in 22, we will start a new 3-year grant cycle. And I want to just take a couple of minutes to talk about the memorandum that we put out, Memorandum 79 about closeouts. And I will do my best not to read to you, but I think there's some information in there that is worthy of spending just a couple of minutes, and I want to get the language just right. Number one, it goes into how DOE commends the network for their perseverance of the program in meeting the needs of low-income families while navigating a global pandemic. We recognize the heroic efforts during the pandemic to adapt, to enhance health and safety protocols so that services could be provided at a time of increased need. And we acknowledge that there will be substantial unspent funds from the current grant cycle. And in accordance with the financial assistance rules, usually within the same grant period, unexpended funds at the end of a program year can be carried over into the next budget period as carryover funds. But since we're issuing new grants in 22, you can't carry over funds from previous awards into a new award. So we intend to deobligate that money. And unspent funds by grantees will be, you know, once all the closeouts have come back and all the money kind of filters through the federal financial system, there's, once all those grantees are closed out, there's a body of funds that come back to the department or show back up in the accounts. So what we intend to do is put those funds back out under the formula award. So even though there's unspent funds in the states, it is unlikely that the program will lose those funds. And that's subject to approval by the Office of Management and Budget. And we ask the network to continue to expend funds responsibly by completing quality work and making every effort to meet production goals. However, DOE recognizes that production pauses caused by COVID-19 and continuing supply chain and workforce issues are outside of your control. We know that there is going to be unspent money, and that money, you know, once it goes through the closeout, we intend to put back out under the regular formula. And I know there's been a lot of concern, but, you know, nobody in the 45-year history of the program has dealt with the pandemic like you have. It's time, because there are all kinds of issues with getting yet another extension and average cost per unit issues on the existing grants, that we want to start with a clean slate for 22 and to prepare ourselves to be in good shape for the 3.5 billion in the BIF. So next slide. Okay, this was another item I wanted to bring to the attention. It might, it's been a busy year and a half, almost 2 years. So I just wanted to reiterate this item. Under the Energy Act of 2020, the program was reauthorized and they increased the allowable admin percentage, and that went into effect immediately. We're still going through rulemaking to align the regulations with the statutory changes, but this item went into effect immediately, and it was just the increase in admin to the program. The section and the statute stayed the same. It just struck 10% to 15%. So these funds are out there and available. I know it's not a huge increase in admin, but it is there and is available for 21 and forward. Next slide. Okay, so these are a few new programs, and Sasha and Amy are going to go into some of the E&I is enhancement and innovation. That was a new competitive under the reauthorization. And CERC, here's an acronym, it just rolls right off your tongue. Sustainable Energy Resources for Consumers. And now you know why we call it CERC instead of its actual name. It's very lengthy. I wanted to kind of compare and contrast these two funding streams and talk about where they are. CERC was passed in 2007 under ISA is the acronym, and I'm not going to remember exactly what the language is for, but anyway, that was when we were authorized under statute to offer CERC, and it was specifically to expand renewable and domestic energy technologies not currently covered by weatherization. So what that means is CERC funds can be used for renewable and new technologies that do not meet the savings to investment ratio. So the issue with CERC is it's only available anytime we have an appropriation of over 275 million. And we've only done it one other time, and that was in 2010. And not until 2020 were we funded at or above 275 million. So this would be our second time actually doing CERC. The issue is it is a may. You don't have to. And so we've been seeking secretarial approval to, sorry, my internet connection is going down. I'm going to stop my video here just for a second so it will help. Okay, so secretarial approval to award CERC funds, and that is moving through the various channels and changes. We've had briefings with the secretary because it's her authority to exercise this discretion. We do believe it's going to occur. We're just waiting on the signature. And in the meantime, there are all of these things going on behind the scenes on how to receive proposals and put this out to the network. So we have for 20 and 21, between those 2 years, reserved 12.3 million for CERC. And the other program that was part of the reauthorization in December 2020 is the enhancement innovation. It's a competitive, and CERC is for the existing network, and E&I is for the existing network, but those who are also outside of our weatherization network. And we're going to go into the purposes and everything, but I'm just trying to give you a little summary of the of comparing and contrasting the two. Unlike CERC, which is optional, DOE is mandatory. It has a 5-year sunset. So it was authorized for 21 through 25. But DOE must, it's not a may, you must put these funds out in that way. And it's the award and the amount that comes off the top of the program is dependent on how much the appropriation is that year. So in 2021, there's 18.6 million available for E&I purposes. The max cap is at 25 million, and each individual award cannot be more than $2 million. So those are some of the new funding streams or pots of funds that will be, coming out from the department. And I believe that's my last slide. And Amy is going to get into the nitty-gritty of E&I.
Thanks, Erica. Yeah, I will go into a little more detail on E&I, as we're calling it. My name's Amy Klusmeyer. I'm a project officer at DOE, as Erica mentioned, and I'm co-managing this project with Brittany Price, who's another project officer in the Weatherization office. So if you attended the opening session this morning, you heard Ana Maria Garcia talk about enhancement and innovation. This is a new program, and it is an opportunity to pilot new initiatives in weatherization. We started this program in January by announcing our intent to publish a funding opportunity announcement. We did that through the Weatherization program notice here and the Federal Register notice in June. We also hosted 2 listening sessions in March, and some of you may have attended those listening sessions. All of that information was taken into consideration as we drafted the funding opportunity announcement. That is the tool that will be used to do the competitive procurement for this program. At the same time, we were drafting an information collection request. That's a federal tool that's used for any new programs that need to be reported. So we'll be completing that over the next couple of months and submitting it to the Office of Management and Budget. As Erica mentioned, this is a little different from the formula grant program since it is competitive. So that is where this funding opportunity announcement will come in. And right now, we are going through some internal reviews of the FOA draft and making some updates. And we hope our goal, and this is a very tentative goal, is to publish by the end of September. We do anticipate 9 to 15 awards total. As Erica mentioned, it's $2 million per award. So with that $18.6 million allocation, that is what we are anticipating to do with the first round of money in 2022. So here's a summary, kind of a high level summary of those March listening sessions. And Erica mentioned there were 5 priority topics in the statute that are allowable activities under the E&I program. And those are listed here in the ranking order that all of the attendees that were at those listening sessions ranked them. So weatherization readiness or addressing deferrals was the top ranked issue by attendees of the listening sessions, followed by healthy indoor environments or enhancing health and safety measures, hiring and retaining workforce, renewable energy, and disseminating new methods and best practices. I also wanted to touch on a couple of the discussion themes from those March listening sessions. The first one, and probably the most prominent one that we heard, was to not apply the average cost per unit and savings to investment ratio rules from the formula program to these E&I awards. The second discussion theme was related to equity, and we got some requests to really consider an equity lens when reviewing the applications for the enhancement and innovation program. We also got a lot of feedback around the nonprofits, or the other nonprofits, as the statute says, that will be eligible entities for these awards, and making sure that those nonprofits are coordinating work closely with the weatherization program and subgrantees. And finally, innovation does not need to be complex to be effective. And I would say keep it simple is the rule that we've been trying to follow as we've drafted the funding opportunity announcement. So all of this was taken into consideration as we were drafting that document. So coming up next in fiscal year 2022, as I mentioned, the award process will look different. There will be first a concept paper stage. The concept paper is a short document, usually about 5 pages or less, and that will be reviewed by DOE, and applicants will be sent an encourage or discourage notice to submit a full application, which is the second part of this process. After that, there will be a selection stage, and then a negotiation stage, and finally awarding and starting the project performance period, which we hope will align with the beginning of the 22 program year for weatherization. There's a link here with more information on the process, so you can visit that if you are thinking about an award and get more detail on each step in the process. I will say if we do hit that tentative end of September deadline for publishing the FOA, the concept papers would be due in October. Typically there's 30 days for the concept papers, and then another 30 days for the full application. So probably end of November, December is when we'd be looking for the full applications. So that is a very quick summary of E&I, and we'll have time for Q&A after we're done with the presentation. I am going to turn it back to Sasha for an update on Justice 40.
Thank you, Amy. If I could interject, I just got a reminder from management that we do need to end right on time because the virtual session will cut off right at 4 o'clock. So we just need to keep our eye on the clock. Go ahead. Yeah,
Thanks,
no
Amy.
pressure.
So hi, everyone. My name is Sasha, and again, I'm an ORISE fellow with WAP. So today I'll be talking about the federal government-wide Justice 40 initiative and how WAP is involved. So first, Justice 40 is defined as a government-wide initiative to deliver 40% of the overall benefits of federal investments to disadvantaged communities. You can go to the next slide, Amy. So on July 20th, OMB released interim guidance for Justice 40 to all federal agencies. This included an interim definition of disadvantaged communities and further guidance on how to work on expanding this definition, along with details on a new interactive mapping tool that is expected to be released later this year. And since WAP was chosen as one of the 21 Justice 40 pilot programs and one of 4 within ERE specifically, we will be working to calculate what is currently being provided in terms of benefits to disadvantaged communities, in addition to working to find the best ways to maximize benefits. Next slide. So this is a quick timeline that OMB laid out for us. So here, the stakeholder engagement plan had to be developed by August 19th, and we are in the middle of the stakeholder engagement process right now. By September 18th, the goal is to implement the stakeholder engagement plan and have a plan developed for maximizing benefits along with the methods for calculating benefits. And then by December 17th, to have calculated the estimated benefits in anticipation of further guidance from OMB. Next slide. And yeah, so I've quickly just explained the basics of Justice 40 and the initiative and what it entails for WAP, but we also just want to say thank you so much for all the work you already do in servicing low-income communities. And thank you to all who participated in the stakeholder engagement session last Friday. We really appreciate all the feedback we've received, and we'll continue to work closely with NCAP and others in the WAP network as this initiative evolves. And we receive further OMB guidance. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sasha. This is Amy in the room. I just want to go ahead and thank DOE again for the opportunity to involve NCAP in that process and remind everyone that we did conduct a survey. The survey is still open. So if you can connect with me in some way, I can send you a link to put your responses into that because we're still interested in receiving more responses. And what? Yeah, oh yeah, that's a good idea. We may be able to post that link into the conference app. That would require some more figuring, but yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, go ahead, DOE.
That might be how much time do we have?
We have 15 minutes.
Okay, all right, great.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
3:44. We
get
have
to know.
until, yeah.
So, all right. Hello, everyone. My name is Derek Schrader. I'm the policy advisor for technical operations with the Department of Energy's Weatherization Assistance Program. I'm going to cover 3 technical updates for the DOE WAP program.
You're fading in and out. You'll have to speak right into the microphone.
Let me know if that's any better.
That's great.
Perfect. All right. If I fade out again, let me know right away. I have to often go between microphones on my laptop. I'll be covering 3 technical updates for the DOE WAP program. I'm going to be covering the non-energy impacts research paper that was recently released, as well as 2 upcoming WPNs, the Health and Safety WPN and the Quality Work Plan WPN that will be coming out in the near future. Next slide. The first item is the non-energy impact research. This report, which is named Addressing Non-Energy Impacts of Weatherization, was completed by Slipstream out of Madison, Wisconsin. This project was supported by the Department of Energy through the Oak Ridge National Laboratory and was released in March of 2021. The goal that was behind this task that was done through the Oak Ridge National Laboratory was to provide information to the Department of Energy on issues related to integrating non-energy impacts, including health benefits, into the overall weatherization assistance program. The relevancy to this is when the weatherization assistance program was reauthorized late last year, language was contained in the appropriations that indicated that the Department of Energy Secretary may amend the regulations prescribed to provide that the standards take into consideration improvements in the health and safety of occupants of dwellings and other non-energy benefits from weatherization. The short of what this is indicating is that it opens up the door for the Department of Energy to start looking at additional ways that non-energy benefits / impacts could be potentially incorporated into cost effectiveness calculations. Next slide. One thing that I want to kind of just bring up front right away is that even though the reauthorization language does give DOE the ability to start looking at that, the current regulatory framework has not yet been updated. And the current regulatory framework indicates that all energy conservation measures must be cost effective based on energy savings alone. Please know that we at DOE are working through the rulemaking process as we speak right now, so that we are incorporating those items that were in the reauthorization language that essentially tell DOE what it is that we need to do. So as of right now, it is still all ECMs must be cost effective based solely on energy savings alone. But again, we are working on the rulemaking update. And as we progress and as that is updated, DOE will be informing the network of those changes that are coming out. A non-energy impact. So you may be asking, why am I using the term non-energy impact when non-energy benefit is typically the term that is used? So weatherization certainly does deliver more than just energy savings, which does fall into the non-energy bucket. However, all non-energy benefits aren't necessarily always a positive. So it was decided for this paper to utilize the term non-energy impact as we were trying to get an unbiased assessment of all of the literature that's out there to determine what of those non-energy benefits had a positive impact on the client or a negative impact on the client in regards to savings to investment ratio, confidence in the data that comes out. The issues that were explored when we were reviewing all the literature is how does it fit into regulatory requirements of the program? How to consider selecting non-energy impacts, what non-energy impacts are out there. How do you monetize non-energy impacts with a degree of confidence to incorporate into a national program? How do you take those non-energy impacts and incorporate them into savings to investment ratio calculations? And then how do you integrate non-energy impacts into the overall program, as well as it is always the goal of the Department of Energy to protect the integrity of the program. So when looking at these and looking at all of the variables that are in place, how do we ensure that the integrity of the program is kept in place? Next slide, please. So there's several types of non-energy impacts. There's health-related energy impacts, which is often thermal stress, indoor air quality, painted window replacement, which often is tied to breathing-related illnesses. There's also non-health energy impacts. There's water-saving measures that deliver water and sewer cost savings. There's societal emissions with carbon.
Derek, you have 10 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. The other aspect is, when we're looking at this, is linking non-energy impacts to the home or the occupants. For home characteristics, there's often a bunch of variables between location, climate, what type of heating and air conditioning system do they have. For occupant characteristics, does the home have children? Is there elderly? What is the medical history? So as you can see, when the literature review was being completed, it was trying to take a comprehensive look at all of the variables that are in place when we start discussing non-energy impacts. Next slide, please. So where we're at on this currently is we do have the report and it is publicly available. So I will share that with Amy. I apologize for not having the link in my slide, but I'll share that with Amy so that we can get it out to everybody so that they too can review. Is the pathways forward are non-energy impact research and evidence. We are looking at all of the information that was provided. The monetized value, there's methodology and uncertainty. The applicability between demographics, geographic, and housing stock. If you're applying a non-energy impact, does it need to go directly to the home where the non-energy impact will happen? Or do you apply it across all dwellings where perhaps there's not a health-related impact for the clients that are living there? Evidence of how it links to a measure or a group of measures, as well as because there's to incorporate the cost effectiveness calculation, it may often require software retooling for energy audit tools. DOE does have the ability to fund and maintain the weatherization assistant tool. However, there is multiple privately owned energy audit software tools that would require resources to retool those to incorporate non-energy impacts. So DOE's current focus, the current focus that we have is looking at the societal cost of carbon. We are aware of one grantee that has proposed an idea of including the societal cost of carbon into the cost of fuel, as well as water saving. Currently, most energy audit tools look at water saving purely from an energy efficiency standpoint of having to heat the water. However, with some simple changes or some simple modeling, there is the ability to also incorporate the total water saving between cold and hot water, not just energy efficiency. As we continue to move down this road, we will make sure that we inform the network of any potential inclusions of non-energy impacts to the overall weatherization assistance program. Next slide. The next two items that I'm going to talk about are some upcoming WPN updates. The current health and safety guidance is WPN 17.7. It was issued on August 9th of 2017. It defined the following: to clarify and update, provide additional information related to the implementation and installation of health and safety measures as part of the weatherization program, as well as provided required components for grantees to include in their annual health and safety plans. Next slide. As we are working through the update, there are some items that simply are not going to go away when we do release the new health and safety guidance. Those items, or the main items, are the requirement to comply with the ASHRAE ventilation indoor and air quality standard. There's also still going to be the requirement to comply with all federal, state, and local worker safety requirements and health and safety expenditure limits. One point that I do want to bring up is it is often a misconception that 15% is the maximum that grantees are able to essentially request for health and safety funding. 15% is a typical percentage. However, 15% is not that maximum limit. Grantees can and often do request or receive greater than 15%. That is at the time that the annual plan is submitted, and the Department of Energy project officer works with the grantee to review any additional information that needs to be submitted to justify the greater than 15%. However, 20% and greater has been approved on an annual basis. Next slide. The big change to the upcoming health and safety guidance is the requirement to install a package of measures for radon precautions. Based on the results of the building assessment of radon reduction interventions with weatherization retrofits expansion study, The following package of measures will be required on all dwellings when applicable. That covering all exposed dirt floors within the pressure and thermal boundary with sealed soil gas retarder, cover sump pump well pits with airtight covers, and implement ventilation strategies with consideration of installation in the lowest living level as required by ASHRAE 62-16. When I say applicable, two of these are not anything that's new to the program. Covering exposed dirt floors in compliance with ASHRAE 62-16 has been a long-standing item in the Weatherization Assistance Program. Adding new or increased focus to covering sump pump or well pits is really the item that's going to be the newest. However, based on the results from the Beck study, these will be a required package of measures when applicable on all dwellings. Health and safety funds will be allowed to be utilized to cover these. And the other things that we're changing is we were really trying to reduce the redundancy in the guidance. So we consolidated health and safety measures where feasible. Air conditioning, heating systems, and combustion appliances is a single issue now. Asbestos, that used to be 4 or 5 issues, it is now a single issue. And occupant pre-existing or potential health conditions, those were 2, and it is now combined into 1. Next slide. And I do believe I can get through the next couple slides in the next 4 minutes. The quality work plan update. WPN 15.4 was issued on 10/21/2014. It defined what constitutes quality installation of weatherization materials, how those measures are inspected and validated, and prescribed acceptable training and credentialing of workers. It was further broken down into 5 sections, as you can see on the bullets below. Next slide. Similar to
Eric,
the last.
you've got about 4 minutes. Just wanted to keep your mind on the clock.
Thank you. Similar to the last slide, there are certain things that are not going to be going away with the update of quality work plan. The requirement of a quality control inspector certification. All units with DOE funding applied will still need to be verified by a certified quality control inspector. The accreditation of training programs. Comprehensive training will still require accreditation, and field guides will still need to be aligned to the standard work specifications. Next slide. However, things that are being considered is one of the main items that I think will likely be most welcome by the network is the idea behind the quality control inspector mentorship. We are currently exploring mentorship approaches which would allow for those uncertified to complete inspections underneath the supervision or oversight of a certified quality control inspector. The objective of this is to allow the individual that is not certified to work towards meeting minimum prerequisites to eventually challenge certification exams. I know that we will likely get multiple questions on this, and I do please ask that you bring those to the Q&A session that's coming up next. And then the other things that's being considered is the training categories can be redefined or expanded. We are looking at encouraging more training needs analysis and needs-based training, as well as we're trying to encourage grantees to enter into longer-term contractual relationships with training providers for training and more, as training centers are a very big asset to the program and do and can provide much more than just training. They can also help develop training needs. They can help you evaluate program effectiveness and many other things. So these are the big changes or the big updates that will be coming for upcoming WPNs. And that should be the last slide that I have until we move into the next one. So again, I do want to thank everybody for their time today. Please come to the next session with your questions. It's not very often that you have DOE in the room to be able to ask us questions or in the virtual room per se. So we do look forward to seeing everybody back in 30 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Derek. That was perfect timing. Yeah, we didn't get time for questions in this session, but we are treating this as a double session. So we have a half-hour break. It should be starting from 4, and then we'll come back from 4:30 to 5:15, and we can do more interactive Q&A. And so if there's anyone else that is not here now that you would like to participate, you can go get them and bring them back. DOE folks, I'm pretty sure that you're going to disappear in a little while, and we'll see you again in a half hour.
Sounds good. Take care.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye. Thank you all for joining us. I hope to see you back soon. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Do you have a card? I can follow up. Can I just write down your name? Yeah. I don't trust other people to follow up. I will follow up. What's your email? Hello, are you coming back or? Oh, okay. Okay, did you get a card or did I run out of cards? I have some more. I'd like to. Thank you. I would actually like to get your card. Do you have one?